Okay. Class, today we're moving on to section 2.6. Now, if you've noticed as we've worked through chapter 2 and we're working with integer rules, that we've learned how to add them and we've learned how to subtract them, and we threw in some distributed property yesterday. And so now today we're on multiplication. Now, when we get to multiplication, okay, the rules of engagement change, okay? So we've got a set of different rules that we have to look at when we're going to multiply integers. And so that's where we are today. Now, I kind of wanted to start out, everybody turn to page 70 in your book, all right? And page 70 has a lot of properties. I say check out all those properties. Now, most of these properties we kind of use or we do them without realizing they have a name. So if you look on page 70, the first gray box is called identity property of multiplication. It says there is a unique real number 1 such that for every real number A times 1 equals A. Yeah, so what's that saying? Well, anything times 1 equals itself. Who can give me an example? Yeah, great job. 2 times 1 equals 2. How about Mrs. Burton's favorite number? Yeah, 32. 32 times 1 equals 32. And that's called identity property of multiplication. Let's look at the second gray box. The second gray box is called multiplicative property of 0. Now, if you look there, we know anything times 0 equals 0. So A times 0 equals 0. Now, they're going to try and hide that 0 in a sequence of numbers to see if we're paying attention. But as soon as we see that something's multiplied by 0, the answer is 0. Okay? Now, last gray box on page 70. Okay, last gray box. It says for multiplicative property of -1. So for every real number A times -1 equals the opposite of A. So basically, we are going to see that when I multiply something by -1, it changes their signs. Positives become negatives, and negatives become positives. And that's a real important property and a piece of information that we're going to need, especially when we get to chapter 3 and have to start solving equations. Now, let's go over and look at page 71, and we've got one more gray box there I want us to pay attention to, and that's the property of opposites. Okay? So for every real number, A and B, -A times B equals -AB. All right? So again, as we look here then, we're just showing, hey, a negative times a positive is a negative, and then 2 negatives equals a positive. So it boils down to these rules. Now, Mrs. Burton kind of took all of that and turned it into 2 rules, okay? And so here it is, rule number 1. If 2 numbers have the same sign, then their product is positive, okay? And if 2 numbers have opposite signs, then their product is negative. So just like when we were adding or subtracting, the first question you got to ask yourself, same sign or different signs? If we're multiplying, check out your operator. If we're multiplying, then if they're the same sign, they're positive. If they're different signs, they're negative. Now, they're going to give us a long string of numbers to multiply, so I kind of made another rule to help us. If there are an even number of negative signs, then my answer is positive. And if there's an odd number of negative signs, then my answer is negative. So when I'm doing this multiplication, the first thing I check out is my signs. Is my answer going to be positive or negative? So we're going to try a few, and then we'll be done. So let's go ahead and go to my next slide. And so if you look here then, let's look at number 1. Now when I look at number 1, okay, the first thing that I check out is my signs. Okay, is that answer going to be a positive answer or a negative answer? Great job. Did you notice there's 3 of them? So there's an odd number. It's going to be negative. Now I'm just going to multiply the numbers together. Now, Do I have to multiply numbers in order that they're given? No, good job. Remember, multiplication is commutative. So if I was looking here, I would probably say 6 times 7. What's 6 times 7? And everybody knows that is 42. So guys, always check out your signs first. Make sure if it's a negative, you put that down there, and then just multiply your numbers. Now, let's look at number 2. Number 2. Is number 2 going to be positive or negative? I was trying to trick you. Good job. Did you see it's times 0? Yeah, so guess what my answer is here? 0. And we learned last chapter that 0 is neither positive nor negative. All right, great. Now, let's go to number 3. We're in algebra. Okay, so we got to throw some letters in there. It's a number thing, and it's a letter thing. So if I look at number 3, first thing I'm going to check out is my signs. Is that going to be a positive number or a negative number? Yeah, there's only one negative sign. That's an odd number, so it's going to be negative. Now, if you notice, the only number there is 3. So there's an understood 1 in front of here and an understood 1 in front of here, but 1 times 3 times 1 is 3. How do we multiply letters together? Yeah, in Mrs. Burton language, they just come along for the ride, and I usually put them in ABC order. So standard operating procedure then, the number goes first, and the letters fall behind in ABC order. Okay, now I don't know what I did, but somehow I skipped number 4, and we're on number 5 now. So let's look at number 5. What's going on there? Nice. Distributed property. I was trying to be slick, so I put it in back. Now, this time we're multiplying by negative 9, so we got to be careful with our signs. What's negative 9 times negative 5y? Well, 9 times 5 is 45y, and it's going to be positive. A negative times a negative is a positive. And now what's negative 9 times negative 8? Negative times negative is a positive, so I'm going to put plus, and 9 times 8 is 72. Great job. All right, let's look at number 6. Now, number 6 was one of those properties we just looked at in the gray box. They want me to multiply everything by negative 1. So remember, when we multiply by negative 1, we're changing everybody's sign. So negative 1 times m is negative m. And negative 1 times n is negative n. And then negative 1 times negative 2 is positive 2. Nice. Okay, 2 more over here. Let's look at my number 7. Oh, my goodness. Did you notice that we've got distributed property going on? We sure do. Did you also notice there's a negative sign in front of the parenthesis? Now, Mrs. Burton has a little thing. She calls that red flags waving. Okay. Red flags waving means we got to slow down and check out the signs. Now, we know that subtraction means to add the opposite. So I'm going to go ahead and make this plus 3, and then I'm going to make a plus, and then make it negative 3. And now I'm going to use my negative number to do my distributed property. So we've got the 7 out in front, plus, remember, we added the opposite, so we're going to take care of our distributed property with negative 3. So what's negative 3 times r? Whoops, Mrs. Burton put a plus sign. Okay, it's going to be what? Negative 3r, and negative 3 times s, different sign, so it's negative 3s. Good job. Now, I really need you to really pay attention to this red flags waving thing. Okay, because if you miss it, it's going to make everything wrong because you're going to mess up the signs. So let's look at number 8. Let's do number 8 together. Oh, distributed property times 2. So let's look. We've got negative 3, so we're going to multiply everything in the parenthesis by negative 3. Negative 3 times 7, negative 21c. All right, and negative 3 times d is minus 3d. Did you notice it? Yep, there it is. There's red flags waving. we're going to change the minus to a plus and make 2 the opposite. So we're going to take care of our distributive property with negative 2. So now we've got negative 2 times 10, which is negative 20d, and then negative 2 times negative c is plus 2c. Everybody understand what we did? Good job. Okay, so now I've still got c's and d's, so I've got to combine like terms. Who's going to combine with negative 21c? Yes, positive 2c. They're different signs, so we're going to subtract. And so that's going to be what? Negative 19c. And then negative 3d and negative 20d, they're the same sign, so we're going to add them, and that's going to give me negative 23d. Okay, so if I could give you any words of wisdom tonight on your homework, watch out for your signs, and please check out red flags waving. All right, let's go ahead and start our homework.